Hi, this is a video to help you work with dates when you are working in Excel. So here we have these small sample individuals for whom we have the birth date, the birth information, and the death information. And see that we have it divided in 3 columns: day, month, and year. A little bit bigger. And then we have it for both birth date and the death. So this is how we've been talking about putting the dates, because then we can calculate ages and everything Excel does for us. So how we do that, it is a very easy situation. So we just write the equal, and then we write a function. A function, it is a horrible word, but essentially it is a preset of things that Excel does, so we only need to give them instructions. So this one is called date, and then see that it gives me 2 possible things. So I'm going to choose date, and when I do that, let's just write this is the one that I want, and Excel helps me out. So if I want to create a date, I need to add year, month, and day. So let's see, I click on the cell and I write semicolon, and then it's asking me month, semicolon, and day, and then I put parentheses and see, here it is, a proper date. With this date I can compute ages and anything that I want to do. So, but let's see what happens when we spread it down. Then see that suddenly, this date from 1850 to 1880, it doesn't really know what to do with them. What happens is that Excel has been built in the late 20th century, so it doesn't think that anyone is going to use data for the 19th century. Their numbers start in the 1900s, so when you get dates for earlier periods, it just makes them into something else, which is a bit problematic, but we'll see how we can get around that. First, let's just focus on the first record and then see what we can do with the 20th century information. So we would do exactly the same thing for calculating the date of death, and then see that the first one is also in the 20th century, so we do the same date. When we write the parentheses, it knows that this is the one that we want to use, month and day, and then we have it. So now we have this guy who was born in 1901 and then 1930. How do we calculate the age of death? With a simple division, subtraction. The date in which he died minus the date in which he was born. And you're going to tell me, what's that number? 10,600? What is the unit? The unit here is days. So look at this. So if we take this subtraction, and then if instead of expressing it in days, we express it in years, and then we divide by 165 with 25. Remember that every 4 years we need to add a new day. So we have the amount of days divided by how many days we have in a year, where we have 29 years. This is the age of death of this individual. See what happens with our 19th century things. So we straight it back, we get birth date, death date, and see what happens with the ages. So see that for this individual who was born in 1850 and then died in 1880, the calculation is taking place in the year 3000, but it actually is taking place in a good way. So what Excel is doing is just, it doesn't know how to deal with 1850, so it just pushes it to the future, which in terms of calculating the age of death of this guy, it's fine for us. So if your data is only 19th century or 20th century, you can use this way. Your dates are fine here, and your calculations within the 19th century or with the 20th century are fine too. So you could end up with that. But in some cases, we're going to find that some people actually change centuries, and then see what happens. The first date, it is placed in 3700, but then the second date is actually in the 20th century, so it has no problem acknowledging it. So then we have to play a little bit with Excel. So what we do, so here, that's why we have this fake birth year and then fake death year. So what we do is Excel has no problem calculating things that started happening in 1900, but it won't calculate anything before that. So what we can do is just push all our dates into the future. So instead of taking these 3000 random push that Excel does for us, we just say, okay, we will push those in the 19th century, but also those in the 20th century. How do we do it? So we recalculate a new birth year. So see, we take our original birth year and let's say that we're going to push it 5,000 years into the future. And then, just this is a regular sum where just all the years we have added 5,000. And then we calculate a new birth date. And then remember that we write date and then our new year, the original month, and the original day. Okay, and then obviously we have 8th of July of 6,901, and then we have the 3 dates expressed in that measurement. We do the same thing with the fake year in the future, and we have to use exactly the same push, so 5,000 years. So we put plus 5,000, and then we extend it down. So now see that now this guy was born in 6,880, and then he died in 6,910. Oops, I think I just wrote the fake death, not year, but date. So what we do here is exactly the same thing. We just put the new year, our new fake year, the old month, and the day. And here we go again, 6,000. And now see that if we try to actually make this subtraction, it is going to work out very well. So, but essentially we do the same. So we take the fake death date, we subtract it from the fake birth date. And it's just a bit too big. Remember, this is the fake birth date. And then remember that what we have to do is just divide it by how many days we have in a year. So 365 divided 5. And I forgot to write this. And here we go. And then see what happens when we go to people who cross centuries. There's no problem in the calculation. I have to be honest, and this is kind of ugly to have to trick Excel into doing that. But you see, it's just only we have to calculate 2 more columns, and then that is the only problem. But we have calculated ages, and we could do anything that we want with the ages, for instance, or the dates. In this way, we could say, for instance, we have the birth year, and then we calculate in which year did you, or which date you would fulfill 18 years or 20 years or something else. So this is a very convenient way of expressing things into the far future, 5,000 years, for instance, if you do have information that crosses centuries. If you don't have information that crosses centuries, 20th century, you don't have to deal with this. And if it's for the 19th century only, you have to know that Excel is going to express things in a kind of funny way, but it's going to compute ages properly. Remember that once you have computed the age, then you use this information. And then if you want to express something by the month or the year that someone was born, you just use your original variables. So in a way, this fake birth year or this fake death date, they are only intermediate variables that you need to compute in order to get the one that you actually wanted. This one if you are crossing centuries, or just the regular one if you aren't. And I think this is all about ages and dates.